Live from the 607, it's the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour, where we're talking everything movies, TV, comics, and entertainment. Join in the conversation on social media with the hashtag ODPH, because here we go. Welcome to an all-new edition of the ODPH podcast, better known as the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour. What is happening, everybody? Thank you so much for joining us this week. My name is Ken M. Joining me in studio, as always, you know him. He's the co-host. His name is Padawan J.
May the 4th be with you.
Yes, indeed. May the 4th be with you wherever you're listening to us around the world, and we do appreciate you taking the time out to stop by and talk with us, but we want to keep that conversation going with you after the show. So make sure to swing on over to odphpodcast.com. Join in the conversation on our social media accounts. They're all right there. Check out Parlay Points. New blogs dropping this week. The TeePublic store, the classified section where you can find friends of the show, and so much more. The directory, if it is anything and everything that is the ODPH, it can be found at odphpodcast.com. And always remember on social media, use the hashtag ODPHpod. But kicking off the entertainment edition, we have to give our final thoughts on Season 1 of Disney Plus and Marvel Studios' Moon Knight.
Yeah.
One of the most anticipated shows of 2022 has finally wrapped up. Episode 6 has came out. The star of the show, Oscar Isaac, playing Mark Spector and Stephen Grant. And, well, we'll kind of dive into that just a little bit later here. Definitely was bringing a lot of emotion to the role. And obviously, knowing the character of Moon Knight, who suffers from dissociative identity disorder, this was no easy feat to pull off on screen. But he did it and had a stellar cast to work with as well.
Yeah.
May Calamaway played Layla. You had Ethan Hawke as Arthur Harrow, and definitely bringing this character of the Marvel comics universe to the cinematic universe definitely was one that we have been analyzing each and every episode. It has been a long journey to get here. The show has now wrapped up Season 1. So before we give the countdown and get into spoiler talk, Pad, give us a spoiler-free statement about this show.
The show overall has been not bad. It's been good. Wasn't quite sure what to expect going into it, but, you know, it was surprising how much I did enjoy it. It took a little bit to get going, but once it started going, I really, really enjoyed it.
Knowing this character from the comics, and he has been around in many incarnations, and he's had a lot of people take the time to really take him in different directions. Mark Spector's debut on Disney Plus has been one that I thought they took in yet another direction, and I thought they did a very good job with it. Was I blown away by the series? No. But is there enough that I want to see more of it? Oh, absolutely. I think that they really hit their strides later in the series. The first couple of episodes, I thought, definitely tiptoed around a little bit.
Yeah.
Instead of just going right into the heart of the matter, because being a 6-episode series, it's a little tough to get everything in there at once, and, you know, there's no room for filler.
Well, and I feel like they wanted to kind of, you know, if we're talking like a swimming pool, they wanted to kind of ease into things. They didn't want to necessarily go headfirst into the deep end, because the Moon Knight, the character in the comics, is a little different than your Iron Mans, your Captain Americas, you know, and even some of your more, you know, B list and C list. And I don't want to put a letter list on Moon Knight, but he's not exactly a household name for everybody. He's a little different, so I feel like they wanted to ease into that and kind of get people used to just how the character is and what he's about and everything about him before they went full tilt on it, you know, in the way they did it.
I have to agree with you about that. I think that they did, the pacing was maybe the only thing I really had an issue with, but I understand your point that you brought up too. So that being said, we are going to start talking some spoilers about this series and the show. And if you're new to the ODPH, thank you for giving us a shot. We give a countdown to give you fair warning in case you haven't seen the show yet, because we don't want to ruin this for you. We are very adamant about not posting anything about spoilers for 72 hours after the debut. We give you that fair warning that you won't be ruined about any surprises that happen unless you jump into the episode right here, which we want to engage with you. So we are saying this. If you haven't seen the episode by now, pause, jump in after the countdown, and then continue the conversation with us after that. Because once we get going, we don't stop. That being said, check the liner notes if you're pausing here, because in 3, 2, 1, Pad, what did you think?
Thought the final episode was good. I definitely enjoyed it. However, I did feel it was a little rushed, and it just felt like it kind of hit, was a car driving along the interstate, and then there was a wall there, and it crashed into the wall and just stopped. I wasn't quite satisfied and fulfilled, with the ending, but I did enjoy it.
I have to agree with you. I think that we speculated about this last week that with one episode left, and at that time it had not been announced about a season 2. And I want to stress that it has not been officially announced, but if you go to the social media accounts of Marvel and Moon Knight, there's some verbiage in there in talking about this episode that has really put the exclamation point on that we're going to have a season 2. Because in one aspect, they say the series finale, and in another one, they say season finale.
Yeah.
So after seeing this episode, well, we know we're going to season 2. Because the entire story of the Fist of Khonshu was not going to be wrapped up here.
No.
They left too much on the table that we needed to fully break down and even go into further directions with. Because as this whole series has begun, Stephen Grant wakes up in England, and he's getting used to having this idea that something else is going on around him. And he's starting to have, obviously issues sleeping and then waking up. And you're seeing how they shifted between personalities.
I think one of the first shots we see in the show is him waking up, and he's not handcuffed, but he's got handcuffs attached to his ankle to the bed.
Yes. And as you're seeing, he's getting pulled into a very epic adventure by Khonshu, who is trying to guide him in the path of stopping Arthur Harrow's character, who is trying to resurrect the goddess Ammit. And this is now bringing in the entire world, so to speak, because with you're seeing how Spectre and Grant are balancing each other out, it has been a roller coaster ride to get here.
Yeah.
And definitely been one that there's been some globe-trotting that they didn't need to dive into exactly how we got from point A to point B. We're just here. And then obviously going into the last episode, we see that Mark Spector was shot and killed.
Oh, yeah.
Allegedly. And then he's going through the afterlife. And you get really into the meat and potatoes, the heart of the matter, no pun intended, of who Mark Spector is. And you get probably their strongest episode.
Kalima.
Yes. And we get to see how Moon Knight has all come together. And now, obviously, with one last shot to save the world, this is where we jump in. Because as this episode goes, we go back to the real world, and we kind of do a little jumping around too here this episode.
A little bit.
Which I thought they handled very well considering. And this is where Layla is getting contacted by Tawret. The goddess who's guiding Mark and Steven through the afterlife.
Yep.
Even though Steven has now gone overboard and Mark is waking up in
the Field of Reeds.
Yes. So now she is basically saying, you got to go and continue the mission. And Mark is not coming back. It's now in your hands to do. And how she's going about this is she has to go find Harrow and the temple where the gods are and release Khonshu from his prison that they put him in. Because when Khonshu started tampering with everything, well...
the other gods didn't take it too kindly.
Yeah, they did not exactly like it too much. However, though... At this point, Harrow has now activated the power of Ammit through his staff, which I thought was very cool.
Gets a nice upgrade on that staff.
Very so, because you see the gator head appear on the end of the staff. And as he's going through to test this out, he gets stopped by an army as he's trying to travel to the temple and decides to give it a little test. And you see the true power of Ammit. And what happens, Pat, when he slams the staff down?
Everyone gets judged per se, and whether they're good or bad. And then if you're bad, they never quite explained it, but I kind of took it to be their souls were leaving their body. I don't think they outright said what happened.
Yeah, it's just a weird circumstance where Ammit is, quote-unquote, judging everybody and being proactive about deciding the fate of everybody. And during this use of the powers, I mean, Harrow is very corrupted, so it's very slanted into his favor because out of everybody that he kills in this one scene, and there has to be at least a dozen soldiers.
Oh, easily.
There's one that survives.
Okay, because it's like an entire checkpoint, so there's got to be 20, 30 guys here.
And it's just really crazy to see how this all kind of shapes up because this is the first time we've really seen Harrow go into this direction where now he has powers.
And this is like the first time we're seeing the full-fledged powers, because he's used powers before, but I think even he said, oh, this is, and I'm paraphrasing, I think he said, oh, this is only 1% of Amit's powers. This is all that Amit would give me. Now we're seeing Amit untethered, unchained, and this is everything.
Mm-hmm. It's a real crazy scenario here, but now obviously with Harrow having that power and really using it to the disposal for Amit, you're really getting a sense of the danger of this mission, which now has really come to clarification. Not saying it wasn't serious beforehand,
right?
But there was a lot more back and forth between Khonshu, who we know is not exactly on the up and up with everybody.
No.
He's playing chess while everybody else is playing checkers. And you're seeing how Mark Spector is the only person that really understands what's going on, but he's been taken off the playing board.
Mm-hmm.
So this is an interesting dynamic that we finally see the true gravity of the situation. Meanwhile, we jump back into the Fields of Reed, and Mark Spector is there.
Yep.
But he is still trying to find a way back because he now feels the guilt of losing Stephen Grant, his other identity. And this is something that I thought was very interesting how they played this out, because before they didn't know each other really.
Right, and they really didn't like each other.
No, they didn't. But now, obviously, going through the deal last episode,
right,
where they're stuck in the psychiatric hospital, and you're still not sure if that was real or that was not.
Right.
But it turns out it was an imagination prison that he was placed in by Amit.
Yep.
You're now seeing that they're coming together and forming that bond. And he's, hell-bent in high water to go reconnect to Steven. Like, he's refusing to let him go.
I think it's one of those moments that, like, I know you see an example of this in the first Harry Potter book / movie, that, like, at the start of, once Harry gets to Hogwarts, he's obviously friends with Ron. But, like, Hermione, she's there, and, like, because they're in the same year and all this, they go to the same classes, they know each other, they talk, but, like, they're not super friendly. And it's not until you have the troll attack that, like, and I think the line from the book is even something to the effect of, like, oh, you can't even go, something like a troll attack, you can't help but come out of that being friends. It's something of the same case here, that, like, considering everything you've been through and you are dead.
Yeah.
And now that all of the cards are laid out on the table, that, like, Steven knows what's going on in Steven's life. He's been there. He's experienced it. But Mark has been, because of everything he's been through and his military training, he's very cagey. It's very close to the chest. But, like, there's nothing held back now that, like, all the cards are on the table. And let's face it, once you know everything and you've been through death together, you can't help but get a little closer.
Exactly, and this is kind of more closer to the comics a little bit in the sense that where Mark Spector is primarily the identity we all see, but does shifts from time to time under the circumstance that happens. So this is kind of like a little tied to the comics, not so much like, a complete homage.
Right.
But there is that element in the book, which I do think it works out in this situation, because now Mark has reconnected with Steven. Meanwhile, as we touched upon, Harrow has now gone to the Temple of the Gods and now has basically slaughtered every god that there is that was imprisoning Khonshu.
Well, wasn't the gods themselves, it was just the avatars, which kind of cuts them off?
Their avatars, yeah. So,
yeah.
So more or less, like I say, I felt like they killed them off completely because there's no connection.
Yeah.
But meanwhile, Layla has tracked them down at the temple and has snuck around and found the Ishabi. And that has Khonshu inside and releases.
Yep.
So now Khonshu is now walking. And thus offers the deal to Layla.
Oh, boy.
Which, I mean, we've seen this through a couple episodes prior, too, that Khonshu is double dealing and obviously is trying to find whoever he thinks is going to be his, rightful fist of Khonshu, the one that dishes out vengeance for the unjust.
Yeah,
and
you really can't take anything Khonshu says at face value. Like, he is double dealing, triple dealing, quadruple dealing.
Yeah, like, it's kind of an odd situation, but this does play into a lot of the comics because Khonshu is just one of these characters you really don't understand the true meaning of what he's doing.
He's got plans on plans on plans.
Yeah, and I thought they really played this up because now you're seeing more so in more recent runs the issues with Khonshu.
Yeah.
And you're seeing that come to life a lot more than we've seen in previous incarnations. So this I thought was done very well, but Layla is like, no, I'm not going to take this. This isn't going to happen.
She, like, I think she even says, like, I've seen what you did to Mark and Steven. You made their life an absolute living hell, and they're dead. Why would I want to do that?
And Khonshu is just basically like,
okay.
He's trying to force the issue, but he's like, well, if you're not going to do this, I need to find another way to stop Amit.
Right.
And obviously at this time, too, we're now seeing that Steven and Mark make this dramatic escape to the gates of Osiris. And they wake back up, but they more or less recommit to Khonshu at the same time.
Well, they kind of had to because I think Tourette even brought it up in the last episode that, like, okay, even if you go through all this and everything works out and you make it back to the real world, you're going to wake up in the real world with a goddamn bullet in your chest. So you're just going to, unless you make this deal with Khonshu, you're just going to end up right back where you started.
Yeah. So they do make an uneasy alliance, even though they are "quote unquote" promised that they will be, freed from their contract with Khonshu.
I promise. Once we're done with this, you'll be scot free and clear. Wink, wink.
Yes. So the uneasy alliance is formed, and then Mark Spector becomes Moon Knight, and the traditional Moon Knight we see in the comics.
Yep.
So you see him make this dramatic run from where his body was left to catch up with Harrow and his forces.
Yeah.
And it's a very cool action sequence as he's coming in.
Yeah, because I think he was in like the middle of the desert and like almost the middle of nowhere. And then they were at one of the great pyramids, that you see in all the photos more towards civilization.
Yeah. So at this point, Layla is still trying to fight for her life, but then even she cuts a deal to become the Avatar of Tauret.
Yeah.
And that's a very cool scene to happen.
Well, and I think Tourette played on her emotions a little bit just because she brought up her father.
Yes.
That like, I helped you. And she goes, wait, you know my father? Oh yeah, I helped to escort him across to the Field of Reeds when he passed. He'll be thrilled to know I talked to you.
Yeah, so one thing to take away from the series is all those Egyptian gods are corrupt. Every one of them.
Well, when you got that much power and you've been around as long as they are, they're not on the up.
Right, like something's going on here too. So even though Tauret seems the best one of them that we've met thus far. Make sure to make a note of that. So you do see that Layla is now become an avatar. She's now having some powers of her own.
With a dope-ass costume.
Yes, indeed.
Oh.
Yes, indeed. Have to applaud the costume designers for this one. And Mark Spector finally makes his way back to catch up to everybody. Meanwhile, Harrow and Amit have now gone into Cairo. And now are fully trying to take over everybody and judging everybody, so they're getting more powerful as it's going.
And that was one thing I maybe I missed on. Maybe it was a scene my attention lapsed. But like I don't remember, because you get to the scene where, Amit starts like, judge everybody, and the sky starts getting weird and the purple lights start flying up and all the people in Cairo start going, well, what the hell's going on? And you got the one person, like the scale tattoo shows up on the follower's arms. And I was like, I don't remember them mentioning he's got a bunch of followers. So if I'm wrong, and they did mention that, I apologize. But like, if they didn't, I would have liked to have at least gotten a little explanation on that, because to me, it seemed like it was out of left field.
See, I think where they were going with it, the way I interpreted it, and I mean, you're right. I don't think they came out right and said it. But I think that Amit, since he was taking over more people, were becoming more avatars for him.
Maybe.
And it was kind of like spreading, almost like a centipede, so to speak. So this is where I thought they were, sending his forces out and thus causing the reaction so he become more powerful.
Yeah.
But meanwhile, while he's on top of a pyramid doing this, Mark Spector finally shows up. And we get a great action sequence, even though, like, the entire time of him flying there was cool, and then when he finally gets there, they're having a nonstop battle.
Yeah.
Khonshu shows up to fight Amit. They're all fighting. Layla jumps in. This is probably the strongest point of the episode, I thought.
And we got to know, for as much issue as they had switching back and forth between Mark and Steven, they're doing it flawlessly now.
Yes.
Which was awesome to see.
Yes. So, like, they were doing this perfectly because what they've done is they've given Stephen Grant the Mr. Knight persona. And they haven't really done this per se in the comics, at least the ones I've read. So this is something interesting that they're going to give them, like, his specific identity.
Right.
As Mr. Knight. And then you have Mark Spector is going to be Moon Knight, as we know. And they were, like you touched upon, they were going back flawlessly. And Stephen Grant has now become very comfortable being Moon Knight.
Yeah.
Which is something I thought was very interesting to see, how just the evolution of the character was going here. And as they're fighting back and forth, and this is all going into the basic plan because Layla has come to the idea is that, okay, if the gods can connect Amit into his avatar, we have a chance to stop him.
Yep.
So this is where the end game is going for this.
Because I think the only other option they had was to use the statue thing again. But since that was destroyed, well, that's out.
Yeah, so it's just the way that this has been determined. Like, we have to force Amit into Harrow.
It's a long shot, but it's better than nothing.
But it's all they got. And they do find the way to do this, because even though Harrow is doing this, he underestimates him, though, in one aspect, because Mark Spector he's defeating quite easily. Stephen Grant even more, because he's not a trained fighter, so to speak.
Right.
But then we go back to a little plot hole that was around episode 3, where both of them black out.
Yep.
And when Mark Spector comes to...
everyone's dead. Cars are overturned. Several of them are on fire.
Yeah.
Layla's looking at him like, what the fuck?
Yes. And this is the point where everybody watching at home, and I think this is going to be the most confusing point until the final scene of the show, is what just happened.
Well, it's another hint, because, like you mentioned in episode 3, there was a scene where Mark blacked out. Steven blacked out, and then he was like, wait, was that you? But it was kind of dry. I don't think Mark responded to him. I think Steven just asked, and I could be wrong. I think Steven just asked, hey, was that you? And it just kind of got dropped there. But we get to this scene, and I think it's Mark's in control.
Yeah.
And he goes, Steven, was that you? And then Steven pops in and goes, no, it wasn't me.
Yeah.
And then they just kind of go from there.
Right, which, if you're just getting introduced to Moon Knight right now, you're going to be a little lost right here. If you're a longtime comic reader, as we mentioned last week, we had a feeling, you had an idea where this is going. We knew
something was going to happen, just it was a matter of getting there.
Even though I want to give credit to Ron from 3FN.
Okay.
Because he did come up with a theory.
Sure.
And I'm going to mention this at the end.
Okay.
But when he said this, I almost thought his theory came true. And I thought this would have been completely cool to do if they were going to do this. So, obviously, Mark Spector is now waking back up.
Yep.
Harrow is defeated.
And
basically, now they have him imprisoned, and Amit is now inside, so Khonshu is now won. It's almost a happy ending.
What is it? Harrow's brain dead, it appears. He's there, and looks like he's conscious, but he ain't moving.
No, he's basically out of it completely. And Khonshu is basically screaming at Spectre, kill him. Because we can't take any chances with Amit coming back.
Yeah, let's say we've been down this road once before. Let's not do it again.
Yeah. But Spectre doesn't go along with the plan, which I thought was kind of interesting. I was going, okay, now you're having the redemption moment.
Yeah.
That maybe now being connected with Steven as he is, he's kind of softened his ways.
Well, and I think it's just a case of Steven opening Mark's eyes to things that, like, Mark was very gung-ho, very in on it, because he had kind of like a singular view and a singular path of how he looked at it. But then getting exposed to Steven and going through everything they did, including death, he's like, all right, I think there's one path to this, but there's more than one way to do this.
Right. So during this moment, they let Amit live. And Harrow live. So it's kind of like where do we go from here? And then they talk in the deal about Khonshu releasing them.
Yep.
So all of a sudden we go back to the psychiatric hospital that Mark had been in, and Harrow was the psychiatrist working with him. And Mark picks up that this is not real.
Yeah.
So then I honestly thought, well, was this Khonshu's plan all along?
Maybe.
Because suddenly Amit's gone, so it couldn't be the
so to speak.
Right, but for all intents and purposes.
Yeah.
But for going back to that imaginary prison, so to speak.
Right.
Well, who was really behind the scenes of this after all? So maybe it was Khonshu. Kind of an interesting thought with that. So they reject it and basically go back to the normal life. You see Stephen Grant wakes up.
It was almost like a lucid dream type of thing.
Yeah. So did it really happen? Like, I understand they're trying to go like a little bit Inception here.
Yeah. No, they did.
But so it kind of left the viewers at home watching and going, what's going on here? I thought it just, obviously they just came back to, and now Stephen Grant is going to start the life over, knowing Mark Spector is in him, and we go from here. Albeit, though, that is how that ends, but we get, obviously, with every single Marvel show, we get a bonus scene.
Right.
And now we see that Harrow is completely broken in a hospital.
It looks like the same psychiatric hospital from the dream sequence, whatever, death sequence, whatever. But this is real.
No, this is real. And you see that he's not the clean-cut psychiatrist with a mustache. No, he is literally looking like he just got the crap kicked out of him.
He's sitting there, he's drawn, he's doing something, he knocks stuff over. Oh, time for bed. Mm-hmm. Person walks up speaking Spanish. Mm-hmm. They go and the nurse is very confused, and the gentleman says in Spanish, "No, I'll take care of him." And she's further confused because she doesn't speak Spanish. Mm-hmm. This person, because they do a great job with the cinematography.
Yeah,
you never see who it is. I think you see the back of them, but like they're well disguised enough that you can't tell who it is. So they take out Harrow in his wheelchair. They wheel past the reception desk, and the camera does a very deliberate point to stop moving, even though the wheelchair with Harrow in it keeps moving. And you see a male nurse working the receptionist desk, and he's lying on the ground in a pool of blood. Mm-hmm. And then you walk they wheel him out of the hospital. They put him in a white limousine. And they toss away the wheelchair. The wheelchair. And we get in the car, and who's in the car?
Khonshu.
Uh-huh.
Now, this is a little play to the comics, too, because Khonshu is sitting in there, and he's talking with Harrow, and Harrow is completely lost at what's going on.
But I felt like he was still showing some signs that, like, he's not 100% there given what happened, but, like, he still, like, was like, oh, there was a little bit of something there.
Mm-hmm. And then Khonshu says, well, why don't you meet my avatar? Jake Lockley.
Yeah, he was like, oh, just because Mark and Steven thought I was done with him, they actually thought I was meet my most loyal avatar.
Yep. And thus comes down the limo window, and it's Mark Spector's body, but this is the third identity of Moon Knight. If you've read the comics, and we did mention this was the one that was in the coffin in the previous episode, this is Jake Lockley, who is maniacally giggling as he pulls out the gun and shoots Harrow and kills him.
Yep.
And that's how it ends. Mm-hmm. So, overall, thought it was good.
Yeah.
Thought it was a really good ending. But like you touched upon, they really kind of sped through. Ron's theory, though, and I want to give credit for this, because I was talking with him, I was talking with Rich from 3FN. Both those guys are big Moon Knight fans. If you want to talk Moon Knight, definitely hit them up at 3Fat Nerds Pod. Ron was kind of hinting that maybe it wasn't going to be Jake Lockley's personality.
Sure.
That it might have been like they did in one comic run where he was thinking he was Wolverine.
Okay.
And obviously with how vicious he was.
Okay.
I thought like maybe they were going to do something like that. Like,
sure.
It'd say it was like James Howlett or something. Variation.
Yeah.
Because in the comics, Mark Spector's always been the mercenary, so that's been nothing new. Stephen Grant has always been the billionaire playboy.
Right.
Like, that's been his character. And Jake Lockley has always been the cab driver, ear to the street. He's not exactly been the ruthless killer, per se, as much so as, like, Mark Spector. So seeing this, personality has been, a really interesting dynamic that's been going on, too. So seeing how this all kind of came together, it's been really interesting to see how they're going to run with Jake Lockley as the personality nobody knows about, or the identity, rather.
Yeah.
And now that will carry over to, we're assuming it's going to be season 2.
It has to be.
It has to be at this stage, because even if they wanted to leave it off and just end it there, I don't think they can, and I don't think that is the plan.
No.
I'm just not sure exactly where they're going to go for season 2. They have a lot of stories they can tell, so it's not like in example to Iron Fist, where there really isn't a lot.
Yeah.
They've got some stories to tell, because obviously Moon Knight being around since 1975, and obviously picking up steam over the most recent years in Marvel Comics, they've got some stories they can get into. So where we're going from here is very, very interesting.
Yeah.
But I thought overall they did a great job about explaining to the Marvel cinematic fans who Moon Knight was.
Yeah.
And they didn't really overcomplicate it in the sense
they kept it fairly simple.
They kept it very simple. And where they're going to go in the future, like, I think that cinematic fans are going to have to get used to.
Sure.
He is very violent.
Yeah.
So you're going to see a little more Jake Lockley's personality come out. Just how it's mixing in with everybody else is going to be very interesting to see how this plays.
This was definitely like a training wheels are on kind of thing. Get your toes wet, get the fans who aren't familiar with the character introduced to this character. But no, once season 2 starts, those training wheels are going to start coming off.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, no, it's definitely going to get more violent as it goes. So if somebody really was kind of worried about are we really going to pick up steam? Because like I say, in the comics, there really is not punches pulled.
There's what is it, rating settings on Disney Plus now.
Mm-hmm. And I think that the success of this show will be the catalyst to open up the doors for more characters like Moon Knight to show up.
Punisher.
Punisher will be the first one we see come through that door at some point. Now, do I think that maybe they would bring him back in the current storyline that they're doing right now in the comics as the leader of the Hand? Possibly.
Maybe.
I think that might be the segue to get him back, even though it'll be a weird dynamic just to kind of throw him in there and do that.
Mm-hmm.
But it all depends on how the Netflix characters are going to get introduced. We do know they are coming.
And we know John Bernthal has said he's down to reprise the character again, but it has to be for the right story.
Yes. But all intents and purposes, it's going to happen. Just with the powers that be at Marvel right now, I think it'll just be kind of mixed into more so of the super heroic aspects.
Sure.
Instead of like how grounded Punisher was for Netflix.
Sure.
But it still gives a lot to, be excited about as a fan. But seeing how they pulled this off on Disney Plus, I think is the win itself. I think that that's what we all have to take away as fans. I know they differed from the comics a lot.
Oh, yeah.
And I know that that's one thing I've read online that some people have been very angry about. And I get that because for a lot of fans, Moon Knight is their guy, like their number one hero. Because when he's done well in the comics, it's great comics to read. Like it's really something that you go, okay, I understand the buzz behind this character. Because otherwise you see him and I know in some early incarnations there's a lot of comparisons to Batman.
Right.
When you dive into it, it's not there. Like they're two different characters for a lot of different reasons. So now with season 2 coming up on and how well Oscar Isaac did this,
yeah,
it's all but a sure lock we're going to go.
Oh, it has to be.
But in what kind of aspect are we going to see him in? That's going to be the fun part. That I don't have a trajectory. I'm not sure where they could go. I mean, they could have him obviously fight his brother that's presumed dead, but it's not.
Could be.
That would make probably the most sense. But this is a situation that Marvel has really opened up a playbook that they can go with. And Oscar Isaac just knocked it out of the park with this. Him and, it sucks to see Ethan Hawke's character get killed, but it's comics.
They can always come back.
Because I think the only loophole that I have for this show that they haven't explained is the thing about cutting glass on his feet.
Oh, yeah.
Because they never really kind of explained the purpose of that.
Yeah. Reasons.
Other than to suffer. But even though that did come into play because that's when Mark Spector realized in the psychiatric ward
right.
that, oh, wait, something's not right here. And that's how they left.
Yeah.
So how this all gets thrown together, it's been a fun show to watch. Has it been the number one show out of Disney Plus, do you think, of the Marvel Universe?
For me, no. It's certainly I've certainly enjoyed it, but I'm not gonna sit here and say, oh, this is the best one, that you should start with this one and then go through all the others. Definitely watch it, definitely get to it, but it's not bad.
No, I think that this is definitely something that if you're a longtime comic reader like myself, you love this. And seeing these characters come on screen. Because you have to remember, if you're older like I am, to a degree, seeing a character like Moon Knight ever in an incarnation of a TV or movie is astronomical to see. It's just so weird to me that we live in a day and age that Ant-Man is a profitable movie franchise.
And going on a third film.
Yeah. How? Why? Same thing with Guardians of the Galaxy. But this is one thing that when Marvel gets a hold of a character they can definitely run with and do, I think it's going to win some fans over. And hopefully that translates to comic sales because that's what they should be doing. And just in the current runs that are going to be going on with Marvel, they should definitely take the momentum and run with this. But with Oscar Isaac definitely making his mark as the newest entry into the MCU, I think there's a lot to build off of. I think the only thing that you'll be a little disappointed is if you're a diehard for the comics, they did differ a lot.
Well, and especially if you're going into it, which you never should be, expecting a 1-to-1 translation.
Yeah, but I think for going through the Disney route, I think that this is a situation where it was okay with what they did.
Yeah.
And I think now how they go for season 2, that's going to be the real tell.
That was my biggest thing. Like, I enjoyed the show, but like still the 2 issues I had with the season overall, pacing, and then just the story. The story was good for an intro, for an origin story, but it didn't feel as strong as it could have been.
Yeah. So we'll have to wait and see how this all shapes up. But ODPH Society, hit us up on that hashtag. Hashtag ODPHpod. Moon Knight Season 1 is done. Give us your thoughts. Did you love the show? Did you hate the show, and why? Let's discuss this, but remember, keep it spoiler-free for 72 hours. Let's not ruin it for anybody. After that embargo's lifted, let's talk in full spoiler detail. That being said, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Hello, everyone. My name is Nick. I'm the host of Nikolai's Kitchen, and I'm also the host of the annual Livestream for the Cure. Livestream for the Cure is a charity event where we raise money with content creators and podcast partners from around the world for the Cancer Research Institute, a wonderful nonprofit researching cancer immunotherapy, training the body's immune system to fight all forms of cancer. This is a mission and a future that I truly believe in. And myself and my team worked tirelessly over the past 5 years to raise over $50,000 for this cause. This year, we're aiming for our biggest single goal to date of $20,000, and we cannot do it without your help. Please join us for the event May 19th through the 21st, starting at 9 a.m. Eastern, for 45 hours of content from people all over the world. Together, we can bring hope for a future immune to cancer. The more eyes we reach, the more dollars we raise. Please help us in making this goal a reality. Together, we can make a difference.
Coming back for another segment on this edition of the ODPH podcast, and it is time to talk the best show on the CW network.
Yes.
By far and away, and this is Superman and Lois. If you're not familiar, you need to get familiar. The Man of Steel has returned to the small screen in a big way. Tyler Hoechlin is playing the title role of Clark Kent. Elizabeth Tulloch is playing Lois Lane, and they brought their family from Metropolis to Smallville, and all the hijinks going on there has been definitely must-watch TV. And I know that there's been a lot of cancellations in the Arrowverse, and we'll talk about that a little later in the show. But with what they're doing with the CW taking a hold of Superman and Lois and making that the new franchise show, we can all breathe a little easy as DC fans.
Yes.
In my opinion.
Yes.
And obviously, Season 2 is kicked off in a very unique way, kind of dancing around, introducing us to a surprise villain of the season that we didn't really see coming. And obviously, we have to talk about the latest episode entitled Truth and Consequences. And obviously, Pad, we're going to get your spoiler-free statement, and then we're going to go countdown. So what did you think about the latest episode?
I know we had some criticisms with last week's episode just because it felt like a filler episode if we're talking anime terms. Because the story lasted 40-whatever minutes because, hey, commercials.
Mm-hmm.
But it literally moved 0 steps forward. This episode, far and away better. Amazing episode. Also got to know, directed by David Ramsey.
Ooh,
Yeah,
did not know that.
Neither did I until I just looked at it. Yeah, directed by Diggle.
That's what we like to hear. And obviously, this was a step up in the right direction from last week. Last week's was one of the rare misfires they do with the show that you've been watching since Season 1. It's usually on point. I mean, not every episode has been perfect. But last week's episode was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Where are we going from here?
One of the rare instances, like I said last week, one of the rare instances I got to the end of the show and felt, well, there's an hour of my life wasted.
Yeah. But they definitely rebounded this week. So that being said, let's get into spoiler talk for this. You know the deal by now. We're going to go into the spoiler deep dive in 3, 2, 1. Pad, what did you think?
Like I said, this episode was far and away better than the one last week. Loved every minute of it from start to finish. And there was one point towards the end of the episode, thought they were going to do something that I was very surprised, and then they didn't do it. But still, great episode overall.
You know, anytime you get Jordan Elsass, who plays Jonathan Kent, some screen time,
Yeah.
he's doing work on this show.
Yeah, he is.
Definitely, in my opinion, the MVP of the show. Somebody's got to tweet that at him, too. We are big fans of him here. But this is where I thought he really stepped up his game. Him going against Tyler Hoechlin for majority of the episode back and forth was very cool. Because as we talked about, This season has been a surprise for the villains because we originally thought we were getting Doomsday because when the season began, Clark was having weird headaches. They were alluding to somebody was trapped in a mine.
The character even looked like Doomsday.
Yes, at one point the costume was very accurate to the green costume you saw before the infamous Death of Superman storyline.
The spacesuit.
Yes. But then it turned out to be none other than Bizarro.
Uh-huh.
The classic Superman villain who does everything backwards from our notable Man of Steel.
Yeah.
And this show has gave him a redeeming story arc that he was actually on a mission to save the universe.
Yeah.
Because of a cult leader named Allie who is trying to merge both worlds into one and become the most powerful being in the Earth Prime universe.
It's a Bizarro story, very on brand for him, trying to save the world but destroys everything in the process.
Mm-hmm. And obviously, last week's episode, we got the origin asterisk of Bizarro, which did so much jumping around.
Yeah.
It's a tough watch. I don't think I'm wrong in that statement, Pat.
No, you're not. When you're jumping around from like Clark flying, Earth 1, Earth Prime Clark flying through the portal, and arriving on Earth and then meeting with Jor-El, and then you jump to Bizarro Superman, but then you jump, another scene starts and it's further in the past where the boys aren't born yet. There's just way too much jumping around.
There was way too much. But it finally just got to the end game that the Jonathan of Bizarro World, who looks like a great mix of Connor Kent and Superboy from the 90s. Like it's just the mix of everybody.
I maintain the 05 emo band called. They want their outfit back.
Well, like I say, it's just the two different versions. Because I always say the original one. I know it's always been Connor Kent. But whenever I see the leather jacket come on, I'm going, okay, that's the clone Kent. Mm-hmm. That's how I read him in. But this is a good mix of both. And Jordan Elsas is running away with this character because now he stepped through the portal. He's ready to go merge with his other half. Superman now is finally back on our Earth.
He almost pulls off merging with his other self.
Yes.
Starts the process.
He starts it, but...
Jordan gets his ass kicked.
Yes, Jordan Kent, played by Alex Garfin, jumps in the middle because he's the one with powers on this universe.
Yeah, and I think even Jor-El says, "Oh, of course the weak one gets the powers on this Earth."
Yeah, so it's a cool play because he's just being so snarky. It's working. Mm-hmm. And, like it's winning this over. Like in my opinion, he's Superboy Prime from the DC Comics pages. So definitely cool seeing this incarnation of him on screen. So as they're trying to go back and forth, yeah, it almost happens, but Jor-El sneaks away.
Yeah,
and then Clark is sitting there basically trying to put back the pieces. But it just has not been exactly going his way because Jor-El's like 2 steps ahead of him.
Yeah.
And he has his mission that he's trying to merge with himself, but he's trying to also merge other people in Smallville.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where Clark is really trying to track him down.
Yep.
And he does catch wind of where Jor-El is because John starts having those headaches like Clark did at the beginning of the season.
Yep.
And he starts getting visions of where he is, and he's noticing that Jor-El is at the diner.
Mm-hmm.
And he's trying to get in touch with Lana.
Yep.
So this goes completely haywire for Clark because his best friend in the entire world, Lana Lang, played by the one and only Emmanuel Kirky, is now in danger. And this is something that Clark's very protective of. He does have feelings for Lana just as being a friend for life. Like, that's his best friend.
Yeah.
But he's now like, okay, everybody's in danger because of me. So he makes the valiant save, flying into town, even though he's in street clothes.
Yeah. Hey, it's dark. It's at night.
Which I get, yeah, because I know there was some criticism about, like, why wasn't he in the suit? Like, listen, at this stage, it's Smallville.
He's experienced enough. He knows not to get caught.
Right, so he's trying to go in there, and then Lana comes out of the diner, but Jor-El is staring across the street. And you're seeing that Lana is trying to explain, like, well, you've been gone for a month. I'm now the mayor of Smallville.
Well, she didn't even explain that. She just asks him, "Oh, where have you been? What assignment were you working on?"
She's trying to tell him.
So, yeah, she's trying to ask him about the, because Lois gave Lana the excuse, because they have to come up with something. Oh, he's on assignment in Metropolis, and Lana starts asking, "Oh, how was the Metropolis? What? Oh, you Lois said you were on assignment. I was."
Yeah. So it's a kind of cool scene because Clark is stumbling to talk to his friend because he has not revealed his secret to her.
And he also wants to, push Lana out of the way in like the worst way possible because, hey, I've got something really important right now and you're not it.
Yes. But once this kind of goes, it's a fail because Jor-El takes off.
Yeah.
And Clark is left going, okay, where do we go from here? Albeit, though, the next day is where things get very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Because we see Lana is now giving her daughter Sarah a car.
Nice car.
A very nice car.
Yeah.
But as she's backing out of the house driveway, John L. is standing there. Now, granted, she's sitting there looking at him going like, well, wait.
What are you doing here?
Like, why are you dressed like that? Like, what are you doing here? And he's just sitting there being as snarky and rude as possible.
Yeah, she's like, oh, hey, don't you like my new car? And he goes, oh, it's all right. I've been into Lambos lately, though.
Yeah.
And she's like, all right, well, fuck you.
I love that line. Like, he just, the delivery he gives in it is just perfect. And she's like, wow, like, thanks a lot. I appreciate this. And she drives off just staring in the rearview mirror at him going like, what was that?
And you can, if you look at his face in the rearview mirror, you can tell he's got ulterior motives.
Oh, absolutely. As he goes in the house because Lana is still there.
What are you doing here?
Yeah, she's like, well, Jonathan, what are you doing here? And he is saying, well, you know, we got some business to handle, so to speak. And he actually shoves her into a wall, knocking her unconscious.
Yep.
Because he's trying to merge her with the incoming Lana from the Bizarro world, because they were partners on that planet.
And she's got powers on that planet.
Yeah, and she's got powers. So he's just trying to enhance the army of Allie on this Earth.
Yep.
So while this is going on, Clark is sitting there just completely like lost in what's going on until he finally figures out, okay, what has happened, because Lois was paying a visit to Sarah, trying to smooth things over, whatever is going on there with Sarah and Jordan, which I think is getting to the point now with the show, like when it's done well, it's good, but the romance, it drags out a lot between those two. So this was an episode I felt it dragged a little bit.
Yeah.
And obviously when this happens, John L. makes the play to get Superman to show up and says, like, basically tips his hand like, yeah, I have Lana. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
And he's in this warehouse type deal and sets up one of the coolest sequences I can remember for somebody setting a trap for Superman.
Yeah.
Because Lana's trapped, you know, she's shackled up.
It's like a meat cooler, or it's like some sort of cold storage for food or something.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's a storage warehouse.
Yeah.
And there's a gas tank right by the door. And you just see like Jonathan's messing with it, and like you can't see what he's doing. And basically he's like just being patient, and Lana's like, well, you know, what are you going to do? And he's like, no, I'm just waiting for Superman.
Because Lana has no idea what the hell's going on. She thinks this is Jonathan of their Earth, and she's like, you know, your parents are worried about you. I know you're going through a rough patch. You got kicked out of school. And he's like, and he's playing, matter of fact, he's like, no hold cards to the chest. Like, I think he even says at one point, I am not the Jonathan you know, but she doesn't take it to what it means. She takes it like, oh, he's just going through a phase. But he's not.
No, he's definitely not. So once he draws Superman to show up, he does one of the coolest sequences I think we've seen on the show.
Very inventive, too.
Yeah, absolutely. He blows up the gas tank there, which it's huge. So it's a big fire.
Oh, yeah.
And obviously the flame is going to engulf Lana.
And Clark goes, oh, I can stop this.
Yeah, so he jumps in front of it. Well, all of a sudden you see Clark just go down.
Yeah, it looks like he's getting hit by bullets.
Yeah, he's getting hit by bullets, but Pad, what are they?
Shards of kryptonite.
Yes. How ingenious was this?
That's an evil level of ingenious.
My God, I was like, oh, I'm on board with this. Because how creative.
That's very creative.
Yeah.
Even Lex Luthor hadn't thought of that one.
Yeah, kudos to the writing staff on this, because this is just a dope idea. And John L. is just standing over him. And he's like, yeah, you're not going to be able to stop us, so I'm just going to kind of take care of business here.
Yep.
And stabs him, too, and leaves him. Like, how brutal was that scene?
But that was brutal.
But it works. It works on, like, every single level. Meanwhile, while this is going on, you see that John Henry Irons is back in the scene, which, I mean, we hadn't seen him in a little bit. And it's always great seeing Wally Parks, you know, re-show up on the show, because big fan of, like, how he does John Henry Irons, obviously, with his daughter Natalie, played by Taylor Buck. And they're basically trying to figure out, okay, like, everything is going haywire here in Smallville.
Yeah.
We have to get more power for my suit.
Well, and Clark has recruited John in to try. He's filled him in on what's going on in the whole other dimension and the portal and this and that. And he's recruited John into trying to help Clark close his portal, because, hey, nothing good is going to come out of this portal. Like, the one thing, you know, we went in there to save is dead, you know, as we know from last week's episode. We need to close this thing now. And who better to consult with than a man who came through a portal.
Yeah. So it makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Albeit, though, when they're trying to close that portal, because now they're in the mine where all the action's happening.
Yep.
And they get a surprise visitor.
Uh-huh.
And that is the Bizarro Lana.
Yeah.
And she is not happy to see them.
No.
They're all going like, what's going on here?
Kicking John's ass. John tells Natalie to leave. And she's like, no, I don't want to leave you. He's like, no, you really need to leave.
No. And Natalie does what everybody should be doing in this situation. She is not running away.
Nope.
She pops out some of that X-kryptonite from the mine there.
Yep.
They get loose. And she stabs Lana.
Yeah.
Which is like, how badass was that?
That was good.
I was applauding. Like, this episode like picked up some steam because it's like, we are not screwing around anymore.
Well, you can't.
No, and that's one thing with the show. Like, I like to see them get very realistic about it, even though we're in a superhero world.
Sure.
It makes sense.
Well, and you got to think, like, the only person who would probably stab a superpowered person coming through with some not so friendly motives is Natalie.
Mm-hmm.
Because she's been in this scenario, and John too, to a lesser extent, but do you really expect John to stab a woman who looks like his wife for any circumstances?
Yeah.
I don't see it happening.
No.
You know, but Natalie would, because Natalie's been in that situation where the Superman-like powered people take over and start running things, and she didn't like what happened.
Right.
You know, so she's got no qualms about doing it because she's seen what happens.
Mm-hmm. So meanwhile, while this is going on, John L is trying to meet up with the Bizarro Lana, and while en route, Jordan makes the save again.
Yeah.
And we get one of the best fight scenes we have seen in recent memory on the CW.
Uh-huh.
At ODPHR, if you want to argue this. They are fighting in the space, or in the sky, and like almost teetering around space. They're going at it. Like, this is one of those things you see in like the movies.
Yeah.
And I loved how the special effects team, like we always kind of say with the show, the special effects team goes all in on one scene per episode.
Uh-huh.
Like, pretty much.
Pretty much.
They went all in and nailed this one.
Yeah, because we got an allusion to something happening earlier in the episode when Clark first came back and, you know, John L got chased off. And he's talking to Lois and the boys, you know, everything. Like, he's given, you know, I think it's coming out of a commercial break, so he's explaining them everything about this Earth. And they're really concerned, like, well, he's really powerful. He kicked Jordan's ass, basically. And Clark goes, yeah, but if he's anything like Bizarro Superman, the yellow sun will weaken him over time. So we don't know how much time has passed, but he showed up to Earth Prime at night. It's now daytime. So it's got to have been at least 12 hours, if not more. So at this point, he is starting to feel the effects of the yellow sun.
Right. And Jordan takes full advantage of this. In fact, given knockout blow after knockout blow in the sky until finally they have that moment where they just basically knock each other out. And Jordan winds up getting the upper hand, even though he's doing the free fall. Superman comes in and makes the save.
Yep.
John L crashes down, and even in his groggy state, Jordan gets that one last shot in. Like,
because I think Jordan wanted to kill him, but Clark stopped him, and so he's just like, all right, this is for my brother.
Yep.
Knockout.
Yep, knockout blow. So John L is now arrested by the DOD.
Mm-hmm.
And then how they end this show, I understand it, but I'm like,
I thought they were going a different way.
I did too.
I thought they were going with a recent comic run.
Yep.
They start discussing, because it's been this whole focal point over Clark and revealing his identity and how much issue it caused the family and whether it protects him or not. And it gets brought up in a family conversation about revealing his identity. And I thought they were going to go with the run they did in the comics recently where Clark revealed his identity to the world.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh shit, are we about to do this? No. He decides, all right, I've heard her too much over the years, and it's getting real hard to explain to Lana what's going on, because one of the scenes we do see is Clark is rescued by Lana. Mm-hmm. You know, she
saves him from the kryptonite.
She saves him from the kryptonite. She's really concerned about Jordan because she doesn't or Jonathan, because she doesn't quite know what's going on, and she's really concerned about the Kents because it'll hurt him and it'll be really hard on the family and this, that, and the other. And he's like, and Superman is able to explain things away because it's Superman telling her these things. It's not Clark. But he still feels guilty about it. Mm-hmm. And he brings it up to the family, and this is where I thought they were going to go. The whole, let's tell the world. No, he decides, all right, let's go tell Lana.
Right, after he has the family vote, which the only one smart there was John.
Uh-huh.
John said no. Absolutely not. But Lois was all in, and well, Jordan's blinded because he's like, well, if you tell her, that means I could tell Sarah about my powers. And
why I've been having disappearance issues.
Yeah, even though that's now finally been broken up, hopefully. Which I mean, I understand why they're trying to play up the teenage romance, but like I say, when it's done well, it's good. But this one just felt like it was dragging this episode. Like he just kept making him whining about it. I digress. But we do get the final scene where Clark stops Lana, who's driving in Smallville.
She's confused how he got there.
Yep, and then he does the smart thing. He takes the glasses off.
Well, he tries explaining it like, no, I was there. She's like, what do you mean? And he goes, fine.
Yep, finally takes the glasses off, does a little float, freezes a tree with the ice breath.
And she goes, oh my God,
you're
Superman.
And now it sinks in, and that's the final shot.
And mind you, he's on like I-75 floating in the air.
Yeah, but Smallville.
Yeah.
Reasons. Either way, this was a really good episode.
Fantastic episode.
Yeah, really got back on track from where they should have been. Because last week's was bad.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I can't spin it any nicely.
No, it was bad.
It was a bad episode last week.
Like you can honestly skip it and not miss anything.
No, you're facts. Absolutely facts. So now they're going to be off for a couple more weeks. They're due back at the end of May.
Oh, are they really? Because I was watching it back on DVR, and of course my DVR cut it off.
Yeah, I believe they're done at the end of the month.
Okay.
They'll be returning. So it's going to be a little while to digest it, but it's a perfect time to jump in on the show if you haven't been watching. Like it's really been something to get on board with. Minus last week's episode. We'll put that out there right now. You can just skip that one. But Pad, final thoughts on the episode?
Fantastic episode. Very much a rebound from the weeks prior, and I'm real interested to see where they go with this because unlike how they did it in Smallville, I don't think Lana's going to take this real well.
I'm not sure where they're going to go with it, but you know what? I'm here for it. And I think that it's going to get really interesting to see how they're going to finish the season off. I'm not sure the directions, but this is one thing that the show does very well. They don't tip off too much. And now, even with a cast this big, they juggle around very well.
Yeah.
So I know a big blowout when it comes down to the end of the month, and obviously we'll be talking about it. But what a way to come back and get back on track. So kudos to you over at Superman Lois. Great episode. But don't take our word for it. Hit us up on the hashtag ODPHpod and give us your opinion of the show. We definitely want to talk to everybody about this. Entitled Truth and Consequences, episode 11 of season 2. Let's talk, shall we, ODPH Society? We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Have you ever found yourself confused about the current state of the MCU or whatever the hell is happening with the DC universe?
Do you often have no idea what the hell the difference is between craft beer and that Bud Ice stuff at the gas station?
Well, then look no further.
We present to you Hops Geek News.
We're yet another geek and beer podcast in an already oversaturated market.
All right. We drink and we pretend we know things.
More often than not, we don't really know things, but we do talk some really great topics, and we most definitely can drink.
We'll deliver you news and then dive into any random topic you might have never knew you actually were passionate about.
With lots of fun facts about beer.
And from Marvel to DC and Star Wars, and to why Die Hard is most definitely a Christmas movie.
Which it is. Basically anything that our spouses are sick of hearing us talk about. Join us on YouTube or anywhere you listen to podcasts.
New episodes weekly. Just search Hops News.
Back again for another segment on this edition of the ODPH podcast, and it's time to go back to the movies. Super excited about this because as we are recording, it is time to go back to the MCU with Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. So obviously this is a sequel to the Doctor Strange movie starring Benedict Cumberbatch in the title role of Dr. Stephen Strange.
Yep.
And he has obviously got some companions this time around coming off the effects of Endgame. We do see Elizabeth Olsen is reprising her role as Wanda Maximoff, a.k.a. the Scarlet Witch.
Yes.
And where we're going from here, Pat, how do we break this down?
Well, this is kind of the culmination of things that from the TV show Loki, the TV show WandaVision, What If also, and then obviously Spider-Man No Way Home. You know, where the multiverse has kind of been broken open. Things have gotten real weird. Things have gotten real crazy. And, you know, with all of those things added in, well, you eventually got to make the final calculation and get to the conclusion.
Yes, indeed. So we are going to give you our preview of the movie.
Yeah, we do want to stress, we're not going to be spoiling anything. I will warn you, there are spoilers out there. I will not say, but unfortunately, I might have had something spoiled for me while perusing social media during the last week. I will not say what it is because I'm not sure if it's real or not, and I don't want to be the one to say it and be ruin it for other people if it ends up being true. That being said, if you got to go onto Twitter and mute certain words and mute certain hashtags, certainly do so. I would avoid, it's even gotten to the point where Marvel has turned off the replies on their social media stuff on Twitter. Avoid YouTube videos, avoid the Instagram Reels, avoid TikTok, avoid the YouTube Shorts or whatever they're called. Don't go scrolling through anything because you're inevitably going to come up on something and get spoiled.
Yes, indeed. So we do stress the 72-hour embargo from when the movie drops on Thursday. Keep it spoiler-free off social media, on social media rather. Don't spoil it on there for everybody because it sucks that we know people that have had the movie spoiled for them.
Yeah.
Now, there have been some great podcasts that have been fortunate enough to go to the early premieres. Epic Film Guys gave the perfect non-spoiler review. I retweeted it. I will shout them out. That's what you should be doing if you're going to these early. Don't ruin this for the masses to get clickbaits. Because when you do, I'm going to put you on block. That's what you do. So we are going to give you our preview of what we think is going to happen. Give us, the quote-unquote locks and leaps, if you will, if you listen to the sports show. So with this is going to be kind of an interesting setup. Sam Raimi is going to be doing the directing, obviously, here.
Yes.
Excited to see him return to the superhero realm. And when you see this is the ramifications from No Way Home, and Doctor Strange has now opened up the multiverse, it's really going to be telling to see how this is all going to be portrayed.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's been so much speculation about who's in this and who's not.
Yep.
I just want to go into this film and say, okay, I want to see something different than I've seen in the MCU thus far.
Sure.
I always stress this.
Sure.
I don't like to see the cookie cutter mentality, for the most of the films. Because sometimes it does happen. It's cookie cutter.
Sure. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't.
Right, exactly. So with Sam Raimi at the helm, I want to see this go into more of a horror aspect.
Sure.
I want to see this go into some different directions. And obviously dealing with how we've tapped now into the multiverse in WandaVision with Scarlet Witch and what she's done with her powers.
Yep.
And now getting drawn into this as well. And Doctor Strange obviously tapping into it with Spider-Man No Way Home. And seeing how it's going to be even stretching into the land of what if.
Mm-hmm.
Because as you've seen in the trailers,
yep,
we have seen there is an evil Doctor Strange.
Mm-hmm.
If you see episode 4 of season 1 of What If on Disney Plus,
yep,
you get that whole origin story. And that's who we are speculating is in this movie. And I think that's a smart play as well.
Mm-hmm.
The only other character we know that is debuting, and this is something for Marvel fans to be very excited about, is Xochitl Gomez, who's playing America Chavez. Now, if you know her from the comics, she's a very, very big figure of the Young Avengers franchise.
Yep.
In some incarnations. She's somebody that's going to be watching, and this is going to be a great intro for her because, as we've speculated on this show numerous times, all roads from Disney Plus and the MCU seem to be forming a little sub-story for Young Avengers.
I don't think we're speculating. I think we're outright calling it because if you haven't been paying attention and you're seeing all the pieces get lined up on the board, I can't help you.
Yeah. It's coming together. It's going to be a good mix of members from, the different incarnations of the teams. Yeah. And I'm not sure about a story. I can't tell you, okay, they're already starting to film, but they're setting the groundwork for it.
Literally, if we're talking chess pieces, you've almost got the entire set.
Yeah, of what this team is going to be. And you know what? It makes perfect sense. And I think that this will be fun, whether it's on Disney Plus or whether it's on the big screen. We don't know exactly where they're going to go with this, but let's just be honest. It's going to happen. And this is a great way to introduce America Chavez to the mainstream audience, too, because with the billing of Doctor Strange, you do know that there's going to be some certain, expectations with this franchise because we're now going into post-Endgame, brand new world. Mm-hmm. What are we expecting?
Things are starting to fray a little bit. The multiverse has been broken open, like we said. Wong is going to be pissed.
Yeah, he's definitely not going to be happy about this. Benedict Wong reprising the role.
Strange is going to be on sweeping duty for a millennium.
Yes, but this goes into some good storytelling they can dip into because obviously we know that Kang the Conqueror is going to be the next big bad Marvel villain.
He's coming.
He's coming. He's going to appear in Ant-Man. We might see a cameo, like of a picture of him here, maybe per se.
Wouldn't be surprised if he's in the one of the bonus scenes.
Yeah, it could happen.
Wouldn't surprise me.
It could happen there, but we do know he's going to be in Ant-Man 3 Quantumania.
Yep.
So that is where we're expecting to fully see him. Now, what he does there, we don't know.
Don't know.
But we do know that obviously the buzz that was created when he appeared on Loki in the incarnation of Immortus, this is where fans have definitely got amped up about. And I cannot wait to see where Jonathan Majors takes the character. This is going to be something really fun for comic fans.
Yeah.
And for the movie fans, too, because obviously Kang is so connected and could be a gateway for some other heroes. Obviously, this one has got pretty much everybody waiting to see who's going to be getting added to the MCU with Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. I mean, like I say, we're probably not going to see Kang. I do suspect, though.
He might get, like you said, he might get mentioned, though.
We'll get a cameo, but I think the major villain here is going to be one from the Doctor Strange mythos, and that's going to be Nightmare.
That's been rumored for a while.
We've heard that for a while.
I want to say it's been rumored since the first one came out that, like, they were thinking about doing Nightmare for the sequel villain. Or some time around there. It's been rumored a while.
Yeah, which I think makes perfect sense with Sam Raimi at the helm. I think that's the direction they should go in. Now, do I know it for a fact? No, because I've been trying to avoid finding out details like that. I'm just doing the speculation here.
Yeah.
But I think it'd be a smart play to do. Like, unless they want to try going back to Dormammu or somebody else in that circumstance. But I think that's where they should go with this and then really have some fun with it. And obviously give the fans, those Easter egg moments. We do know Patrick Stewart's in this as Professor X in some kind of incarnation. Well, I'm not saying it's officially him crossing over. We do know that it's been rumored the Illuminati of the Marvel Comics universe is going to get introduced here.
I know one thing because a photo got released. He's in the fucking yellow hover chair.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I'm gonna mark out like a madman when that happens because holy fuck.
Yeah, there's a lot to be excited about with this, and I think that it's going to really knock it out of the park with this too. Most of the reviews I've read, spoiler free, have been saying nice things about this.
Yeah.
So that's why I want to go in with this. I don't want to go this and just have this be so much fan service that it takes away from the story of whatever they're going to try building, because this is going to be the pace car for the next phase of the MCU. Like, we already had that kind of go with Spider-Man No Way Home.
Sure.
But this is where we're going to see really everybody involved.
Spider-Man No Way Home was the appetizer, and this is the main course.
Facts. So going into this weekend, there's a lot to be enjoying about this film.
Absolutely. Bruce Campbell's in the goddamn thing. What more do I need to say?
Bruce Campbell finally in the official MCU. That's all I need.
But will he be playing a ring announcer?
I don't know who he's going to be playing.
If he's not, can we at least hope there's a reference to that?
That'd
be awesome.
You know who I'd love to see him play, but I know he's not going to, is Mysterio.
Oh, that'd be good.
Because that was so rumored during the original Sam Raimi franchise run.
Raimi came out and said he would. Because Raimi got asked about doing Spider-Man 4, like what happened with that, and he confirmed the rumors that have been around for a while that he was writing Spider-Man 4, but given how poorly Spider-Man 3 was received, he wanted to take more time on it. But because of the way the contract between Marvel and Sony works, he wanted to take more time than they had, and the rights would have reverted back to Marvel. So that's why it got canned and it went to Amazing Spider-Man. But he did say that Bruce Campbell would have been Mysterio in that movie if he'd have gotten a chance to.
It'd been goddamn perfect. Oh, if only. So maybe they'll do a little Easter egg there for us. I'm super excited.
I mean, if Sam Raimi gets his way, he'll probably work it in somehow.
Yeah, you could just have it. Like, maybe we'll have a Jake Gyllenhaal cameo. And
maybe he'll pick up, the helmet and be like, what the hell's this thing?
Yeah, they could do something like that. Either way, lock it in for May 6th. I know we'll be going Thursday night with, the family over at 607 Podcast.
Yeah.
And a whole bunch of other friends. It's going to be a fun night. Well, let's put that final stamp on this pad. What do you expect, and how excited are you for this?
I'm expecting a good movie. I'm excited for this just because, like you mentioned, Wanda's in this. You've got Wong. You've got, America Chavez making her debut appearance. I'm excited for that. Patrick Stewart showing up again. I'm real interested to see where they go with that and everything that entails with that. But I'm just, I don't want a movie full of fan service like you said. But, like, if it makes sense, put it in there. I don't want it filled to the brim with it. But I'm excited to see who the villain is and where things go from here. Just because, like you said, this is the pace car. This is kind of the, the doors are going to open up from where this movie goes. And I get the feeling we're going to have more questions than answers coming out of this movie.
I agree. I think that Sam Raimi understands this is going to be a big deal. I think he's going to deliver a very horror-centric movie in the MCU. So this will probably be the closest we get to a real horror movie. I think Benedict Cumberbatch is going to definitely step it up for this. I think, with Elizabeth Olsen tagging along here too.
Yeah.
I think that has a nice dynamic.
Yeah.
And obviously with tapping into the multiverse, and if they're going to do the Illuminati, this is where I think you're going to see the introduction of the Fantastic Four.
Could be.
That's where I'm going to go with this. I know that obviously with Wanda involved, we could see mutants get mentioned.
Yeah.
And then however they want to try explaining that is going to be a little messy, but
I think it's going to spring out of what happened in Eternals.
Yeah, I think so too. I think Eternals makes more sense for that.
Yeah.
Like if there is one bright spot to that, I mean, it opens the doors for mutants, and you can kind of talk about evolution there if you want. But I think this one is going to be basically introducing Fantastic Four in some way. I don't know how yet.
Yeah.
But I think that this might be the case. Or if they really want to pull something over, let's say the Leap, you see Reed Richards.
Oh, that'd be good.
In here.
That'd be good.
And if it's John Krasinski, I think the internet would melt down.
Yeah, it might.
But we'll have to kind of wait to see what happens.
I think for my prediction, I'm going to say one of the bonus scenes will feature Loki.
Okay.
And I say that because I'm not spoiling anything. I don't know anything. You know, I know things, but not like spoilery things. Because I know Tom Hiddleston did an interview or was asked by somebody whether he was going to be in the new Thor movie or not. And of course, being the veteran he is, he didn't give anything away. But he did say he filmed something for Marvel, but he had no idea what it was for. So could be something for Thor. Could be a bonus scene for this movie. But I'm going to go out on a limb and say we're going to see a bonus scene with Loki because in a movie with multiverse in the title, it would make sense for a gentleman who kind of broke the multiverse open to make an appearance.
Facts. Well, I guess we'll all have to wait and see what happens this week. So obviously, you know the deal by now, ODPH Society. Hit us up on that hashtag ODPHpod. Give us your spoiler-free predictions for Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. What do you think is going to happen? And then obviously, that 72-hour window starts after Friday. So we'll all talk about it on Monday on Spoiler Talk. So everybody's been fair warned.
And we all know Ken's predicting Jar Jar Binks will show up.
Well, he's got to. I mean, they're going to do the epic crossover and get the Star Wars in there. Because you know what? MCU does not want any piece of Boba Fett coming through there.
Facts.
They don't want no part of the king.
Although Boba Fett versus Punisher, give it to me.
Ooh, that's a good crossover. See, now I got a lot to discuss. So let's talk about it, ODPH Society. Hit us up, let us know, and we'll be right back.
This is Tom from Tom Joe Lou,
This is Matt from Sidemen Sounds.
and you're listening to ODPH Podcast.
Wanna go where no one knows my name, to the desert, the oceans, or the plains. 'Cause I wanna...
Coming back for the final segment on this edition of the ODPH Podcast. Pad, what you got?
Got a couple things to talk about. Again, happy May the 4th.
Happy May the 4th.
It is Star Wars Day, and I realize tomorrow's Cinco de Mayo. No, God damn it, it's Revenge of the 5th. But no, to grace us with May the 4th and all the Star Wars goodness, the folks over at Disney Plus and Lucasfilm gave us another trailer for the upcoming Obi-Wan Kenobi series, which is dropping at the end of the month. And God damn it, I'm already excited enough for this. You're making me even more excited.
Yeah.
Trailer looks amazing. Kind of some of the same shots you saw before. Doesn't really expand on the story any more than we already know. Obi-Wan is, of course, on Tatooine protecting Luke because the show is taking place after Revenge of the Sith, but pre A New Hope. So Obi-Wan is on Tatooine protecting a young Luke. But in the midst of all this is, of course, the Empire is in the midst of, trying to exterminate all the Jedi, really put a stamp on things and get a grip on the galaxy. And you do have the Inquisitors, who are Force-sensitive users put into use by the Emperor and I believe and Darth Vader. They're really the minions that Darth Vader sends out to hunt down and kill all of the Jedi. And they're obviously on the lookout for Obi-Wan Kenobi because, as Vader knows, well, I didn't kill him, so he's still got to be out there someplace. So they're out there looking for him. But coupled with all this, you have Obi-Wan trying to watch Luke when his uncle Owen wants absolutely nothing to do with the man. And there's an awesome shot in the trailer on Tatooine where Obi-Wan says to Uncle Owen, when the time comes, he has to be trained. And in the coldest line in Star Wars history, I'll say it, Christ, my blood froze when I heard this. Uncle Owen looks at him and goes, "The same way you did his father?"
Yeah.
Oh, which means Uncle Owen is told what happened, that because you got to admit, it'd be kind of random for you just living on Tatooine. Some dudes show up that admittedly, in all of the canon I've read and watched, Uncle Owen, up until Revenge of the Sith, had not met Obi-Wan.
Mm-hmm.
For some dude to just show up out of the blue and go, hey, this is your nephew. You got to raise him. Bye.
Yeah.
So he knows what happened. He knows who Darth Vader is. So, oh boy, that's going to be a conversation. I cannot wait for this show.
No, it looks dope. Absolutely dope. Can't wait to start talking about it in the show.
Switching over to some Marvel news. This broke day after we recorded, but it was announced that the John Watts, who of course directed Spider-Man No Way Home and was tapped to direct the upcoming Fantastic Four film, has left. This according to the folks over at Deadline, which reads, quote, John Watts has withdrawn as the director of Fantastic Four, the reinvention of the venerable Marvel Comics series at Marvel Studios and Disney. Watts just directed Spider-Man No Way Home, the Sony Pictures and Marvel Studios film that grossed $1.9 billion to become the 6th highest grossing film of all time. Nothing sinister here. Watts just needs a break from the superhero realm after completing the Spidey trilogy with Tom Holland and Zendaya. He had expected to make Fantastic Four his next film, the third feature iteration of that franchise, and first since Disney acquired Fox, which controlled the franchise. Watts has spent the better part of the past decade directing and promoting the Spider-Man films after being hired off Cop Car, a small-budget indie thriller that premiered in 2015 Sundance. He needs a breather. Both Watts and Marvel confirmed his exit and said that it is amicable. Said Kevin Feige, president, Marvel Studios, and Louis D'Esposito, co-president, Marvel Studios, quote, collaborating with John on the Spider-Man films has been a true pleasure. We were looking forward to continuing our work with him to bring the Fantastic Four into the MCU, but understand and are supportive of his reasons for stepping away. We are optimistic that we will have the opportunity to work together again at some point down the road, close quote. Watts said that, quote, making the 3 Spider-Man films was an incredible and life-changing experience for me. I'm eternally grateful to have been a part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe for 7 years. I'm hopeful we'll work together again, and I can't wait to see the amazing vision for Fantastic Four brought to life, close quote. So, a little surprising at first, because, obviously when a director, look at Justin Lin leaving Fast X.
Yep.
Director leaves a movie even before it starts filming or right after it starts filming. It's a cause for a little bit of concern. Oh, is there some sort of internal strife going on or things on the rocks? Is Kevin Feige losing his hold? No, he just needs a break, and I understand that.
I can understand that, too. I mean, the only other idea I was having, unless they were trying to sweeten the pot for, like, a John Krasinski to take the role.
Yeah.
He could be his own director for his film.
Yeah, maybe. But no, just Watts needs a break. And then with more Marvel news, we got some dates switching because, or this time according to Variety, quote, Marvel Studios Productions The Marvels and Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania are swapping release dates, Disney announced Friday. The Marvels, the sequel to 2019's Captain Marvel, was originally due to open in theaters on February 17th, 2023, and Quantumania, the third movie in the Ant-Man series, was set to open on July 28th, 2023. Instead, Quantumania will now bow first in February, and The Marvels will debut in July. Insiders say this was a matter of Quantumania simply being further along in its creative process than The Marvels, as the former has wrapped principal photography while The Marvels still has a bit more to go. Marvel Studios' other big theatrical release in 2023, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, is still set to debut on May 5th, 2023. So, obviously, when they swap things around, oh no, what's wrong? Are they having issues? That's that. No, just Quantumania is further along.
Yeah, I was going to say it's probably a CGI thing.
That could be CGI, having to do pickup shots or reshoots and schedules being in a conflict and all that. It's simple stuff like that.
Yeah, I wasn't sweating it too much, to be honest with you.
And then switching over to Fast X, we did get some information from the Hollywood Reporter about why Justin Lin left Fast 10.
Ooh, some tea getting spilled.
So the article from Hollywood Reporter reads, quote, families come in all shapes and sizes. They can be loving and nurturing. They can be boisterous and brash. There can be fractious and frustrating. The Fast and Furious franchise, which runs on the theme of family, became the latter when, only days into shooting the latest installment, Fast 10 director Justin Lin did the unthinkable. He quit. The article goes on to say Lin was handling writing duties on the movie and believed he had a locked script going into it. Universal and Diesel Vin Diesel had other thoughts. A key location that had been secured was cut due to its Eastern Europe location amid the war in Ukraine, and the movie still hadn't cast one of its villains yet. On top of that, even as Lin tried to draw lines in the sand, the studio said it would be sending a writer to London to polish dialogue for some of the actors, a move that was expected, but apparently not welcomed by Lin at that time, sources say. The constantly moving target proved too much for the seasoned Lin, who on April 23rd had a major disagreement with Diesel. The four-person meeting had begun with Diesel having new notes. It ended with a slammed door. Justin finally had enough and said, "This movie is not worth my mental health," says one source. Both Lin and Diesel declined comment for this story. A Universal spokesman told THR any creative differences leading to Justin Lin's exit were with the studio, not with fellow producers, cast, or crew. In the heat of the moment, Lin said he was through with the movie. The studio took him seriously, and by April 25th, a settlement was reached for Lin to exit the production. He would remain involved as a producer. A great many of the crew had worked on F9 with Lin, and for a spell wondered what their next moves would be. But Lin, according to insiders, gave his blessing that they should stay on. Regardless, the muscle car had lost its driver, and it was speeding down the highway. On April 26th, 3 days after the blowup, Lin announced his departure on the Fast social media channels. With the support of Universal, I have made the difficult decision to step back as director of Fast X, he wrote, and thanking his cast and crew for the support and expressing pride at helping to build the most diverse franchise in movie history. So yeah, it sounds like things got a little ugly, and like I said last week, sounds like there's some smoke to the fire of Vin Diesel being difficult to work with.
Yeah, I mean, we know it's his baby. We know he's the guy that moves the needle over there. So if there was a disagreement, somebody was going to go. Surprising that they're willing to throw all that money on the table and, out the window, so to speak. But
yeah.
But at the end of the day, you're not going to replace Vin Diesel of the franchise. You can go get another director to just do something here.
Yeah, and well, we didn't have to wait long. They did end up finding a new director. It was reported by I'm reading from an article on the Hollywood Reporter. This was on May 2nd, so this was just a couple of days ago. That, quote, Fast 10 has found its new director. I'm going to butcher this name, so I apologize. Lois Lettier, L-E-T.
Yeah, Lettier.
Lettier, the helmer behind Now You See Me and several Transporter action movies, is Universal's choice to take over the movie and replace director Justin Lin, who abruptly left the job just days into shooting. And to this I say, hey! I do not like this choice, because if you go to this gentleman's IMDb page, he is known for being the director on the 2008 Incredible Hulk film. Now You See Me, as I mentioned, which came out in 2013. Being a director on the film Unleashed, which came out in 2005, which I gotta admit, never seen. But he was also a director on the 2010 film Clash of the Titans, which is not good. So I gotta say, with his directing choice, gotta say, not a fan. Do not like it.
Not a fan, but you said he did the Transporter, right?
Yeah, he did Transporter 1 and he did Transporter 2.
So he knows how to do car scenes. He knows how to do action.
I'm just afraid that, like, Vin Diesel and Universal found a yes man.
Oh, I'm sure.
And that he's director in name only, but, like, Vin Diesel's actually going to be directing.
Well, that's going to be... You knew that was going to happen the minute that Justin left. Like, I'm sorry, in my opinion, I should say.
Yeah.
You knew that was going to happen because they want to get this production rolling because, like, let's face it, this is going to be the swan song. It's going to make $1 bazillion.
Oh, yeah.
They don't want to have any more delays. So it's like, can you work with Vin? If Vin tells you to jump, you're going to say okay?
Yeah.
Like, that's the whole thing with this. So let me say this. I strongly doubt we'll have another director change here.
Probably not.
Because I bet you Vince handpicked him.
Mm-hmm. Maybe.
So...
and then switching over to some TV news, we alluded to it during our recap of Superman and Lois, but 2 of the Arrowverse shows have officially been canceled. One of which being DC's Legends of Tomorrow, and then the other one being Batwoman. Reading from 2 articles from Deadline, first of which is about the Legends of Tomorrow. It reads, quote, DC's Legends of Tomorrow will not return for an 8th season. It marks the end of a long road for the series, which premiered in 2016. While the CW is known for giving its long-running series a proper goodbye, this season's of Legends will end on a cliffhanger. God, I hate that. Sources, however, pointed out that the characters can easily populate other series in the DC Arrowverse, so you may see 1 or 2 of them in the other shows. Co-showrunner Kato Shimizu revealed the news on Twitter, quote, It's been an incredible run. However, the CW has let us know that there will be no season 8. We are heartbroken, but also immensely grateful for the amazing work our cast, crew, and writers have contributed to our little show that could. Close quote, she said. So not entirely surprised. I mean, it's been kind of rumored for a couple of years now that the show was going to get canceled. Ratings were never quite what they liked, and the production budget on this show was very high. So were they getting their return on investment? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. But the show is ending, and like I said, I hate when a show ends on a cliffhanger because you never get that resolution.
Right, but at the same time, I wouldn't doubt they do like a finale show. Mm-hmm. Either on HBO Max.
Maybe. I doubt it, though. Maybe.
But you never know. Like, with the amount of people that have suddenly gotten vocal about the show getting canceled, which I'm like, well, where have you guys been? And because the ratings haven't been demonstrating the outrage about this. Legends could do that if they really want to push it that far. Because, I mean, obviously they want to get some original content on there. So I think that'd be a smart move to do. Not super shocked, though. I mean, like we touched upon, the budget has been huge. Yeah. The show has definitely gone in a lot of different directions since that opening season. Uh-huh. I mean, other than Bebo. I mean, yeah. Which Bebo is classic.
Bebo's great.
Yeah, you can't say anything bad about him. So not super shocked there. And for Batwoman, I mean, obviously losing your star in the first season.
Yeah.
And, I mean, having to change gears, even though I thought the replacement and the direction of the show after was actually pretty good. Mm-hmm. So, like I say, I am kind of surprised in that aspect that I thought Batwoman was going there. But the one thing that I could not stand with that show is when they started doing, like, a Joker type character.
Yeah.
It's like, because you were going in such a direction, like it would have made more sense if you did something more original. Mm-hmm. But like I say, nothing against Javissa Leslie. Yeah. I thought she was great for filling in for Ruby Rose and taking that character into a different direction. But I just think when you didn't really have that set identity for where you should have gone for season 3, I think that was going to be a problem.
Yeah, I mean, she was put in a tough position no matter what, because you got the role in the comics has always been Kate Kane, and then because of what happened behind the scenes, Ruby Rose left. So it's definitely a bummer for them, but hey, at least you got to see the run on TV.
Yeah, absolutely.
Switching over to some video game news, it has been reported by Polygon and other sources that the Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time remake is now being led by the Ubisoft Montreal studio.
Oh,
they are the studio behind the original title.
Okay.
So reading from the article on Polygon, it says, quote, "The Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time remake is now being led by Ubisoft Montreal, the studio behind the original title. The change was announced Tuesday on the official Prince of Persia Twitter account. The statement reads in part, quote, "The decision is an important step in the team building upon the work achieved by Ubisoft Pune and Ubisoft Mumbai will now take the time they need to regroup on the scope of the game to deliver you the best experience for this remake of an all-time classic when it's ready," close quote. So this game was originally, article goes on to say, Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time remake was originally announced in September of 2020 for an expected 2021 release date. The game would be delayed twice, once from January to March, and then again indefinitely. Anna Kuhl, the producer on the Sands of Time project, said that the title would be a faithful adaptation of the 2003 action-adventure title, where the titular prince finds himself pitted against the plans of an evil vizier alongside Farah, a young princess. It's just we have given it a good bit more flavor, more enhancement, she said. This announcement suggests that Ubisoft is placing a priority on getting the Sands of Time project back on track. Ubisoft Montreal is an experienced studio and the developer behind the original platformer. There is still no release date, so fans will have to wait to see more of what this remake has and when they might get to play it, close quote. So, little surprising that it's jumping studios because you don't really see that.
Yeah, you don't see that often.
You don't see that often, but like giving it to the folks who originally made the game all those years ago, and Ubisoft Montreal is probably their main studio. So those are the guys and girls who are most seasoned, most veterans. So it should be real good. And I'd say it's in good hands.
Yeah, definitely has to say it's in good hands. Just surprising, they're doing the hot potato.
And then lastly, and certainly not leastly, because holy goddamn shit. Reading from an article on IGN.com, Embracer, the headline reads, Embracer Group enters agreement to acquire Eidos, Crystal Dynamics, and Square Enix Montreal for $300 million.
Damn.
So the article goes on to read, quote, Embracer Group has entered into an agreement to acquire Crystal Dynamics, Eidos Montreal, Square Enix Montreal, and a catalog of IPs, including Tomb Raider, Deus Ex, Thief, Legacy of Kain, and more than 50 back catalog games from Square Enix Holdings for $300 million. Embracer shared the news in a press release saying this acquisition includes roughly 1,100 employees across 3 studios and 8 global locations. The deal, if it goes through, is expected to close during Q2 of Embracer's financial year 2022-2023. Quote, "We are thrilled to welcome these studios into the Embracer Group. We recognize the fantastic IP, world-class creative talent, and track record of excellence that have been demonstrated time and again over the past decades. It has been a great pleasure meeting the leadership teams and discussing future plans for how they can realize their ambitions and become a great part of Embracer," says Lars Wingfors, co-founder and group CEO, Embracer Group. Embracer is the best kept secret in gaming, a massive decentralized collection of entrepreneurs from whom we are thrilled to become part of today. It is the perfect fit for our ambitions, make high quality games with great people, sustainably, and grow our existing franchises to their best versions ever. Embracer allows us to forge new partnerships across all media to maximize our franchises' potential and live our dreams of making extraordinary entertainment, says Phil Rogers, Square Enix America and Europe CEO. So once this deal goes through, the article continues, Embracer will have more than 14,000 employees, 10,000 game developers, and 124 internal studios.
Damn.
It also confirmed it has more than 230 games in development at those studios, and more than 30 of them are AAA games. So odds are if you're playing a game in the next couple of years, it's probably from the Embracer Group.
It's probably from them.
Holy shit. So this is definitely a surprise. And just for a kind of an idea of some of the holdings this company has, because I gotta admit, I'd never heard of them. Of note, they own Dark Horse. Yes. That Dark Horse. Some of the other stuff they own is Gearbox Entertainment, so that includes Gearbox Software, which makes the Borderlands games. They also own Koch Media, which has Deep Silver, which makes the Dead Island games, the Metro games, and then also the Saints Row games.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and they also own Saber Interactive, THQ Nordic, which owns and makes a bunch of games. So that's just some of the stuff they own, but holy shit.
That's loaded. That's absolutely wild, man.
That's fucking nuts.
Holy smokes. So for mine, let's keep it all comics, because obviously this Saturday, free comic book day. There is no better time of year to go to your local comic shops, go support them, and go get some free comics. Like, honestly, the fact that I have to like stress this, go get free comic books.
What's better than free?
Exactly. So some picks for this free comic book day, and I know there's so many of them, but I don't want to go down the whole list. I'm just going to tell you what I'm looking for. DC Comics Dark Crisis Special Edition 0. Obviously, if you've been following the events that are going on with the Justice League, this is a must-have for the next big thing going on at DC. Marvel has got their triple threat going, Avengers, Eternals, and X-Men Judgment Day. So that's going to be a big book to keep an eye out for. And obviously, if you know the ODPH rather well, and you know Parlay Points, which you should be subscribing to each and every week for your comic picks, Valiant Comics has got a loaded free comic book day coming from them as well. There is so many publishers going out this weekend that like I cannot stress this enough. Get to your local comic shops. If you only go once a year, like if you're, whatever, don't have the time to get there all the time, you build up your pull list, whatever, this is the time to go. I know locally, shout out Sound Go Round in Vestal, New York. We are going to be sharing that on our Facebook page. They're doing a massive event. Yeah. So if you're in the 607, get down there. I am planning on being down there early for it.
Artists Ken Wheaton, who did work on Simpsons, Futurama, some other stuff, is going to be down there. He did work for Bongo, IDW, DC Image, and many more. And also Marvel and DC comic artist Steve Ellis will be there doing sketches.
That's so cool, man. I cannot stress that enough. Shout out to Justin down there as well. So if you go down there, tell him you heard us talking on the ODPH about it, and he'll say, all right, cool, because Justin is long overdue to come back.
Yeah.
We've been like trying to play a little phone tag. So, Justin, I know you listen. Swing on through, brother. We got to have you come on and talk some comics with us sooner than later. But until then, it is New Comic Book Day wherever you are listening to us around the world. And the picks of the week here, gotta plug Comixology Originals. Now, I can't stress this enough. I say this all the time on the blog, and I'm driving this point home. If you are not signed up for their unlimited deal, it's one of the best deals in comics, period. And most of these books are going to be coming to print from what we've been seeing thus far. Mm-hmm. So, like, I know currently the Scott Snyder runs of We Have Demons is now coming to print. We do know that There are some other ones coming via Dark Horse that we've covered.
Right.
And another one that we're going to see a little later this year, but man, this book is really cool if you're into horror comics. The Panic #1.
Uh-huh.
It is done by Neil Klein and Andrea Modi.
Okay.
And this is a very realistic horror movie set in New York City where a passenger's on a train, it goes and it crashes underneath the Hudson River.
Okay.
They're trapped, and there's a mysterious stranger that is on there that wasn't on there before. And we go from there. It's a dope book. Cannot recommend it enough. And like I said, it's coming out later this year on Dark Horse for print. So if you want to get the jump start on it now, definitely head on over to Comixology Originals and go get it, because it's definitely worth the time. So I cannot plug that enough. Also on the Originals line too, one of my favorite series I've been reading right now, Red Tag #3.
Okay.
So this is one that is done by Stout Club, and Rafael Scavone and Roger Cruz are on the creative for this, continuing the little political story thriller that's going on there, and how the three heroes that are trying to be the voice for the voiceless, in my opinion, are now getting tracked down because they have too much information they shouldn't have, and things are really picking up quick there.
All right.
So really dig that book. And then we also have, coming from Boom Studios, Once and Future 25. Listen, this book is solid anytime it drops. I cannot recommend it enough. And I feel like a broken record because every time I show the artwork to Pad, and I just say, Pad, how does this grab you?
Turn in the computer. Oh, that's different.
Oh, yes. Because who is on the cover, you ask, Pad? Yeah. Because this is his group. It's the one and only Robin Hood.
Oh, boy.
Yes.
Uh-oh.
So, if you're not reading Once in Future, listen, you got to get on board.
I'm going to warn you now, it's not Disney's Robin Hood either.
No, it's some badass stuff going on here. Kieran Gillen and Dan Mora just put in lights out work. Every single issue going on here. It is so badass. I cannot even stress it enough. And my pick of the week, though, is one that I am an old school Valiant Comics fan. Shout out to Valiant Entertainment. They have brought back my favorite duo in comics, Archer and Armstrong, in a brand new series, Archer and Armstrong Forever. So Steve Fox and Mauricio Ferrito are bringing back the dynamic duo of Valiant in a big way. The book is so damn cool. Cannot stress enough. And it's questioning, is Armstrong really immortal? And what happens here? Because they are the unlikely duo that makes it happen. The art is cool. The story is on point. Can't stress it enough. If you're looking for a new comic to get involved with, they're doing some big things over at Valiant. I cannot plug them enough. And the last one I'm going to plug, though, Radiant Black #14. Obviously, we're big fans of the Massiverse here.
Yes.
And I know that they might listen to the show, and if they want to get on parlay points, let's talk, shall we? But Kyle Higgins and Marcelo Costa definitely delivering another one. Showing Pad the cover right now.
Oh my good gosh.
Yeah, it's a badass book. I got to start reading it after the show. So listen, there's so much to go pick up at the comic shops this week, and I can't stress enough. If you're going to go, if you don't go today, go Free Comic Book Day, because most places are cutting deals. It's going to be a great place to meet up with fellow fans, cosplayers. Events are going on, so wherever you are, definitely hit us up on the hashtag ODPH pod, and let me know what's going on at your local comic shop for Comic Book Day. I definitely want to have that conversation. Oh, man. So that all being said, I'm just going to leave you with a very short and simple, for anything and everything that is the ODPH podcast, it can be found at odphpodcast.com. That's all for this week. So for the one and only Padawan J,
may the 4th be with you.
I'm your host, Ken M. Thank you as always for listening to the ODPH, better known as the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour. We'll see you next time.